is to not go on so much about how we got here. It's about how to get us out of it. What do we need to do to get folks back to work and show a sizable chunk of the population that they still matter.
Thank you once again for having it locked to the Launchpad podcast. My name is J-Man, and this is a podcast that promotes freedom of speech and giving people a platform to speak freely. The gentleman that is on the move right now, his name is James Topp. If you have not heard of him, well, there's been a pretty strong effort in making sure that you don't. But for many people all across Canada, this gentleman served almost 30 years. He's a veteran. Thank you very much for your service, James. And he is walking across the country from Vancouver to Ottawa because he has a message that he wants to share with those MPs. And James, what would that message be right off the top?
Well, number one, I've made it fairly clear to them in a letter I wrote back in early April. And this is a form of protest. I'm a federal government employee. I'm on leave without pay. I object to mandates that will require some sort of medical procedure as a condition of employment. Speaking out, speaking for everybody in the same position I am, and I'm also speaking out and for those workers that had to comply because they were told they would not get paid otherwise. So that's basically what I'm going there. They know that already. What I really want to talk to them about is what we have called the 3 R's. It's available on the CanadaMarches.ca website. And the 3 R's are repealing, reinstatement, restitution, and then those 3 R's are going to lead to repair because we need to repair the relationships. There's a divide in our society. There's a divide amongst the Canadian population. There's a divide amongst folks who, they feel cut off, cast aside, and not listened to by the federal government. And, if we are able to have a constructive dialogue, a civil discourse with our members of the federal government in the House of Commons, I believe we're going to demonstrate to the Canadian population that, it's still possible to reach your government and have these conversations. As you know, there was a protest earlier this year. That conversation was not had. And, there was no attempt at even listening to the grievances. So what I want to go forward with my meeting with members of parliament in about 4 or 5 days here, it's 22nd of June when we have it scheduled, is to not go on so much about how we got here. It's about how to get us out of it. What do we need to do to get folks back to work and show a sizable chunk of the population that they still matter to the federal government.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I love what you have to say in regards to let's build this bridge from where we are now moving forward. And let's let go of the past that did not serve us all that well, other than to learn from the mistakes that we have made.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, so I know that you were inspired by the truckers. I was watching you in Sudbury just the other day. You had a very warm reception there, one that you most definitely deserve. So I'm glad that you had that, a lot of support. A lot of people love you, a lot of people following you. When I heard that, this guy's not getting any news, I wanted to make sure that I gave you a platform because this is so inspiring. So when I was listening to you speak previously, you had talked about having gone through a dark place yourself. If you wouldn't mind just visiting there a little bit, I don't want to spend too much time there, but what was it exactly that had you say, you know what, it's the dead of winter. I think I should do something like the truckers, but without a vehicle. I want to walk across the country. I want to do the same thing the truckers were doing, but I want to do it on foot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, come November, I was placed on leave without pay from my public service job. I was a civilian. I was working for the RCMP. I was a facility manager. It was a great job for somebody like me as a transition from out of the regular army. I had left the regular army, full-time army, to join the reserves in 2019. So that happened, not being paid. And then also I was informed by the armed forces I'm going to be administratively released under item code 5F for my failure to comply with the Chief of Defense Staff directive on vaccination and his policy. So both of those things having happened at the same time, more or less, were devastating, especially having been told by, I spent my life in the armed forces, my adult life, I should say. And to be told that I would be released in this fashion, it laid me low. So I ended up getting a job in Hope, BC, where I live, as a tow truck operator. It really opened my eyes up in a number of ways, because I started to see, how the Canadian public lives and works from a different point of view. And it really, I came to the realization, and I had always known this, okay, but I just came to the realization that it was, working people, the Canadian public, they are the ones who paid for my career in the armed forces, and I had a pretty good one. And and then when I saw truck drivers kind of banding together and all the support they received, I found it, I started to think about it, and I realized, it was truck drivers and the Canadian people that really make this country run the way it does. And, I was inspired by that group of people. So I just want to make it clear, I wasn't in Ottawa myself. I saw this happen from BC, where I was living at the time. But I was, like so many other people, it gave them this kind of feeling of hope. And like you said, I felt the need to protest because I was so severely affected in my own way. And I just came to the realization through the suffering, I wasn't the only one in that boat. I realized that there was a whole pile of people out there also on leave without pay, also lost their jobs, or, I've spoken to people who are so angry about the way that they were coerced into having to accept this procedure, that it's still with them, and it's not a good place to be. We're having to, to feel that this was something that you had to partake in, even though you don't agree with it, but you needed to do it to keep a paycheck.
Right. Now, James.
So that's basically the lead up, right?
Right. So why the winter? Like, why not just say, hey, listen, like, I'm really mad. I'm going to start marching, like, maybe in the spring, but you decide that I want to do this right now. I want to march through the winter. I want to go through a Canadian cold en route to Ottawa to make a statement.
Well, I don't know how to put it. There was a way I felt about this. A lot of it, it was, the decision wasn't made on the spur of the moment. I did do a bit of thinking about it. To address the winter, where I started in British Columbia, we're talking about Vancouver here, okay?
Right.
And when you are moving at 6 kilometers an hour, you're not actually, it's not like you're driving into winter storm fronts. We had quite a bit of time to sort ourselves out, condition ourselves, get ready for the mountains. And by the time we actually got to the lower mainland in the Fraser Valley, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area, the winters there are not the same as the rest of the country. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Even though it was a pretty good winter there, by the time we were deciding to march on February the 20th, we're at the tail end of winter, coming up on spring. Yes, it's wet and cold in BC, but when you do the time appreciation, and that's what I did my entire adult life in the military, you plan for these things. Um, you know you're going to be hitting spring, uh, more or less early spring anyway, at certain points along your journey. So we were most fortunate in that we got through the mountains with the weather impacting us very minimally. And where we encountered the most difficulties was in, mid-May, early May in the prairies.
Oh, wow.
Because it was just that kind of year. And, it wasn't like there was not a lot of, there was a thought process that went into this. There was a planning session, even though it was short notice. And to be perfectly honest, I was well prepared to take on operations in the cold because that's my background. I'm Army, I'm infantry.
Right.
I've done operations in just about every environment there is.
Okay. Now, I'm really curious as to how one must feel when you're on this epic journey that it's obvious so many people have an invested interest in, and there's almost a complete media blackout. And I had a lady even say something on my social media in regards to, well, what is he marching for right now? They just kind of drop mandates. And I'm like, you know what, you would maybe know a little bit more if, the news, the people that were supposed to inform you did their jobs. Like, what's the wake-up call that you want to give to people out there to where you're doing something like this and it's barely making a squeak when it comes to sorry, I'm gonna let you do your own thing right there.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
people
no,
by the side of the road. No, I totally love it. And it's great optics, James. Keep it up.
Yeah.
But what is it like, the wake-up call that you want to give to people that here you are walking across the country for this cause that impacts so many Canadians, and yet, we're not seeing any of it on mainstream media?
Have me a bottle of water, please. Yeah, okay. This was undertaken, and that's, I think, where there's the disconnect in the Canadian population with time and space. Okay, so this all started in February, and there was no talk of repealing mandates at that point. At the end of the day, here is it was started months ago, and now we're starting to get some attention. And this is typically what I'm hearing. Why am I doing this now? The mandates are gone. If you think the mandates are gone, I encourage you to do some more research, because that is not the case whatsoever.
Right. I actually have a friend
and I don't
there.
know what exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a friend, James, who was just told that he has to have his third shot right now if he wants to go see his father in long-term care. That would be a mandate. I know that with Posties for Freedom, postal workers right now, they're kind of on a holding pattern. They're saying that they're kind of overseeing the situation and the government guidelines, and they will make their own decisions. And I believe that's how it's working right now moving forward, is that if institutions want to keep these mandates in place, they also can. So there's still plenty to march for, but most people don't know that because they only want to give you the cherry, the stuff that sounds good, opposed to the reality behind it.
Exactly. So this is something I'm going to see through to its completion. Like, I don't know if folks think like I heard a snippet from one headline and I'm just going to throw my hand up and go, oh, well, it's all over. I'm going back to BC, then you're mistaken. That's not exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
I'm going to the War Memorial. I'm going to complete my march, despite the announcements in the news, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already made arrangements for that to happen, working with other groups that were affiliated with that are on the ground in Ottawa.
Now, James, what have you learned most about yourself on this journey?
Sorry?
What have you learned most about yourself on this journey?
Uh, it's kind of interesting in the way that I never really considered myself somebody who's all that extroverted or sociable, but here I am meeting people every day and shaking their hands, and it's attending events like the one in Sudbury, public speaking, all this stuff. Like it's just kind of turned into something I didn't quite imagine, and responding to it. I have to admit, it's an adjustment because I was, the guy who was planning on going out and living in the woods, and yeah, here I am. So,
Right.
marching into Ottawa with millions of people living there. So, you know what I mean? I guess if I was to say, I found out that I'm flexible and adaptable enough to be able to, meet the needs of the current situation.
Mm-hmm. And what have you learned most about others, or what has maybe surprised you most about other people?
Well, it's the generosity, the enthusiasm, the selflessness that others have shown to me, and like I said, I have there's 12 of us all on the ground right now. None of us, we're not making any money doing this. We get contribution in various ways, including cash donations, but that's all going towards keeping us sane. So, this isn't easy. The stress and strain of it on a daily basis is something you have to contend with. But we've kept it together. Like, this is a team of volunteers now that we've kept it together for 4 months because we all believe this is something worthy and a cause worth fighting for. And so that is, opened my eyes in a number of different ways. There's been challenges for sure, but that is something I've observed with folks. They're excited about this. They want to be a part of it. They want to contribute. And it was a learning phase for me in the beginning too, because I had initially envisioned this being a one-man show. But if I hadn't accepted help with this, I never would have got this far this fast.
Right. Right. Well, I don't want to keep you much longer because I see that you have a troop of people behind you. They could probably use a little bit of conversation opposed to them listening to ours. Thank you so much for your time.
Doing what you're doing, because as the corporate media, they lift the curtain a little bit. They're only showing part of the picture, not the complete picture. And I think what you're doing is filling in the rest of the picture, right? You're helping, help me get the word out and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it's important as well.
Right. Okay. So we'll finish on this since it's getting choppy. And I really do appreciate your time. And from everything that I've seen, you're an absolute national treasure. You're a hero. And the amount of love that you are pulling out of people is just extraordinary. I see it in the hugs that you give people and the energy that they give you back. And it's just such a wonderful follow-up to what we had earlier here in the nation's capital with the convoy. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And if Justin Trudeau was in front of your face right now, like I'm talking to you, what would be your message for him?
Oh, I'd say hello, good morning, sir. Let's try to fix some
things. I love it. Start simple. Now, James, if people are looking to donate or help or follow your march into the nation's capital, where can people meet you? This is going to broadcast on Monday. So where can people meet you? Where can they find you? And where should they be sending their help?
Yeah, well, at that point, we'll just be on, we'll have passed through North Bay and we'll be on our way to Ottawa on Highway 17. So we have a CanadaMarches.ca. There's a GPS live tracker link. You can, I have it on my backpack. We turn it on when I start marching. You can find up to the minute details on my station by clicking on the.
Sorry, that just it just cut out really bad again. The details, it's on your backpack.
Yeah, so you go to CanadaMarches.ca and click on the GPS live link.
All right, wonderful. And if they want to send money to support your cause, where should that go?
Yeah, they can do it in any number of ways, but we have a merch shop open with donate buttons, or they can buy a T-shirt. And we also do these fundraising events where, if like we're going to have one in North Bay, for example. So if you're in the area and you want to go to that, there's a poster up on all the social media sites.
All right, James Topp, ladies and gentlemen, veteran, hero. He's marching across Canada. Thank you so much for your time.